Hello, welcome to Val Verde Broadcasting. If it's your first time with us, welcome. We do things a bit differently here, and by that, of course, I mean we do nothing differently here. We encourage you to subscribe, like, comment, and all that business down below. We are, of course, your premier movie-related news channel, and by that, of course, I mean we are not that. So, welcome. Today, me and my esteemed colleague, Mr. Richard Jackson, filmmaker extraordinaire. My name is Duncan Casey, by the way. I am an actor and producer and writer of general things. And Mr. Jackson is, of course, an cinematographer and and all those sorts of things. Why don't you say hello, Richard?
Hi, everyone. You probably know who we are. We're here to talk about movies and the such like in a current way, which we haven't done for ages because of the plague.
Indeed. Yeah. So, and we didn't really talk a lot about new releases, did we? I think we did sort of Terminator Dark Fate, which gives you an idea of how long ago.
It puts you right on the button, doesn't it? Well, this is another Skydance film because we're talking about, Duncan,
The Tomorrow's War, not to be confused with Tomorrow's World.
No, yes, it was originally based on the technology magazine program from the 80s, Tomorrow's World.
Amstrad.
But Chris Pratt objected to that.
Yeah.
And speaking of Terminator Dark, well, like I said, this is another Skydance joint, and they brought us the last two, Terminator and other things.
It does feel somewhat of a sort of used parts bin of whatever they had in mind for that, Terminator sequel. But there we are.
It's when the thing, it's funny because what's come to mind for you is kind of a butcher's dustbin. I was just trying to capsule. We'll get into this, but I was trying to give a capsule summary of what I felt about the Tomorrow War, and I was just walking around. I was just doing admin this morning, and I decided that the best I could say it's like accidentally inhaling from a fart-filled bagpipe. Was the best.
Accidentally or haplessly, I think it would be. Yes. Yeah.
Just a reminder that I have studied critical theory, but I'm leading with it was like inhaling from a fart-filled bagpipe.
Very good. Yeah, well, so obviously just to offer a very, very brief summary of the film for those of you who have not seen it, and if you haven't, why are you here? I suppose it is incumbent upon us to say we will be giving spoilers in this. It's been released. It's on general release on Amazon Prime. I don't think it's gone in the cinema, but it is a Prime original or an Amazon original. And in it, basically, Chris Pratt is an teacher what used to be in the military, and then he's watching football one day with his daughter, who is all wholesome and suburby, and then some soldiers fall out of a big bum hole in the sky and say, "Oh no, you must come with us. Everyone's going to die." They all get have things. Time travel is just once again a MacGuffin-y type. Oh yeah, it happens. Shut up, whatever. And then they go to the future and they find out that generic monsters are the problem, and that they need to fight genericons. And then they come back. So it's a bit of a time traveling sci-fi.
The general premise is that there is a war in the future and they're running out of fighters for said war. So the solution is to invent time travel and recruit doomed people from the past to come fight in the war.
Yeah.
And they make a point early on of going like, oh, well, all of the emissaries from the future are really young. Why is that? Because they have to be people who aren't born in this era to prevent a paradox. And it's like, you're sending guns through a time pipe. Like, what the fuck did you think was going to happen? Like, what irritated me mostly is just how laissez-faire their approach to time travel is. It's really stupid. I mean, like, the trailer made it look stupid, and I really said to myself, I really hope there's some clever wrinkle here regards to how this is going to pan out, and there isn't.
I think they think there is, and I think that usually that sort of shows up in the form of there's that moment, isn't there, where you think there's. I think especially through because obviously it runs in a sort of 3-act structure, and the second act. I mean, the first act's quite short. The second act is spent in the future, and then they come back, and the third act takes place in the present. And I think I spent most of the second act going, "What don't I get about this?" And then I realised, like when that moment when he turned around and went, "They were here all this time. They never came from outer space. They were," and it was just like that's just War of the World. Okay, well, not War of the World. What's the other? What's not War of the World? Is it War of the World? What's the one where it was like they were here all along? They lay dormant.
It was Earth all along.
You maniacs.
How could I be so wrong? I'm not sure. I mean, it seemed horrible, that twist that the aliens had been on Earth the entire time was so horribly signposted, and it was like, oh, like this is really obviously that. 'Cause it's like we never saw the spaceships arrive, and it's like, oh, if only you had a fucking time machine, because no one like it. It seems this is okay. I'm sorry. There's just so much to say, and we don't have the hugest amount of time. I thought, based on the marketing, that they would be fighting a kind of technologically advanced race who had invented, like the in like Terminator, the Skynet made the time travel. I thought the aliens had invented the time travel and they'd reversed engineer it and it was unstable and they had to do it. It's not that. Like the humans just invent time.
Well, Chris Pratt's daughter made it on an oil rig or whatever.
Yeah, we better just invent time travel. What's the solution? We better.
It's a bit like Avengers, isn't it? Where like Tony Stark goes, all right.
That is pretty shocking. I really like Endgame,
travel,
but that is pretty shocking. But it's just kind of like, oh, I've made a bracelet. It's like, oh, well, that took you all of 5 minutes. Nice one. So yeah, they are just mindless beasts. They've been on Earth all along, as you say, and it's 2.5 hours long. And then there's this hugely baggy middle section, and then he says they've been here all along. And as you pointed out to me in a text message, then they just do the thing.
Yeah.
Like they go to the tundra and there's a frozen spaceship underneath. And I thought, I gave this film far too much credit. Firstly, I thought there was going to be some kind of clever wrinkle with the time travel stuff. There wasn't. It is just a time pipe. And then in the future, and this is where people stop caring about paradoxes. In the future, they invent a toxin that will kill the aliens and they send it back to the past with Chris Pratt so he can go to the frozen spaceship and use it on the aliens. And I thought perhaps they were going to go back in time, and then he spills the vial, and it turns out the vial caused the aliens to exist, and the whole thing was a paradox all along. Something, or a person got hit by the neurotoxin that created and they're not aliens after. That's another thing, not being aliens at all, perhaps. And no, it really was just.
The very, very thin allegory, I suppose, that they put over it is climate change, because isn't the idea the polar caps melt and the monsters come out, and then. I suppose that, but not really making any comment about it.
It's pretty half-assed. It's not a film I felt was troubled by duality of meaning. I
think Steven Seagal said more about it in whatever that was called on Deadly Ground.
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah,
but I mean, it's like I think I said to you, it was I wrote you. It's just the thing. Like the end of it even looks like it. All the like underground spaceship and stuff. It's kind of. And the monsters themselves are just so like. There's the reveal of one at the top of a sort of stairwell. Is quite sort of when it's lit that way. It's quite ominous. But they turn out to just sort of be these hulking grey, spike farting tentacle things. They're just not. Yeah. They really have nothing to them. And it looks like a film. We've said this about like the Star Wars and the DC films, and to an extent, I think the Marvel ones as well. It is shot by. It's just cinematic Lego put together. So it's like, Chris, we need you to look scared. We need you to look this against the green screen, and then we're just going to cobble it together. However, based on focus groups, we're going to just compile this film. And it's
you've weirdly stumbled into something there, which I wanted to bring up was quite interesting. So this is directed by Chris McKay, who's mainly worked in animation. Right. And he was one of the animation leads on the Lego movie with Chris Pratt, and he directed Lego Batman. And so you've just kind of stumbled into that sort of because it's so it's all surface. There's no second layer to it. There's no kind of like really potent metaphor or meaning to it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't go to Commando for that. You know what I mean? I would go perhaps to like Running Man or something for that, but I don't go to Commando. Or there are loads of films that are big dumb fun does exist, and it's plentiful and it's great, and when it's knowing and it's done well, it's a good thing. But this was a big dumb chore. 2.5 hours of it as well.
Well, it sort of it shrouded itself in this cloak of faux portentousness. It was just sort of like, I think that's the problem with it. It's like, if it embraced that about itself and kind of, and there's a few moments where Chris Pratt does his Chris Pratt stuff and it's quite funny. But apart from that, the film itself seems to think it's giving you the keys to the universe, or that it's going to unlock some great, truth about humanity. And it's like, no, like it is just an film about killing aliens or whatever.
Sometimes it's sad to fall out with your jacked dad. Also, fucking hell. So, like, someone that you and I are both a fan of is Betty Gilpin.
Yes.
Who was in
The Hunt.
Bollocks, I forgot the name of it now. I'm on a podcast. On the Hunt, a film you and I both very much enjoyed. She was fantastic in it. Like, the character notes for for her character in the Tomorrow War are like, well, she likes standing up. She's complete wallpaper, and it's a criminal waste of like a brilliant actor. And it's just like, don't get me wrong, like I really like Chris Pratt's performances, and I think he's really funny, and he's not doing that here so much. It's his serious action role, and they throw out kind of references to Terminator and stuff, and Schwarzenegger's his father-in-law.
Yes, true,
now. Yeah. So they do. He says like, I will be back, and there's a couple of other things that kind of seem to throw out references to that, and he's doing that, and that's fine. Why not? He's probably quite annoying to be constantly thought of as the funny kind of guy, because he was schlubby and fat in like Parks and Rec, but then he got jacked for Star-Lord, but still had that kind of persona. And this is his kind of serious thing. And I'm not saying he hasn't got it in him, and he produced this, by the way. I don't think he hasn't got it in him, but like, this is just such an empty film. Also, it was originally produced by Paramount for theatrical, and they sold it to Prime for $200 million.
Oh, okay.
So it's had the Prime original. They've rebadged it, you fool. It's had the Prime original badge slapped on it, and Prime had this has done great numbers, and they're planning a sequel. What that would be, I don't know.
It's hard to know how to calculate. I mean, obviously, Prime, they'll know how many people have watched it, no doubt, but it's hard to know in money terms, like how, because obviously you've got pre-existing Prime members. How would you calculate? I suppose you'd have to sort of just assume that anyone who signed up for Prime in the week of its release was doing so because of the film. I don't.
Well, yeah, this is the thing, is it? Because obviously they have internal metrics as to exactly who's watching what, right? But yeah, there's no, unless they've got some spooky algorithm that determines why you bought a subscription, or why, in terms of the monetary value. It's the same with any of these subscription services, really, and it's something they seem to be finding their feet on. I know that Disney have been showboating about their Black Widow numbers, which is uncommon.
Right. But then the thing they have to bear in mind as well, though, is it's like, that is like sort of saying that the cold, crisp sandwich went over really well with the food critics in a famine, like, a bit like one MasterChef with a tomato ketchup sandwich, because because it's like, well, look, you can't really, there isn't anything else to watch at the moment, so it's kind of
it's a bit like saying, well, it turns out people in war-torn African countries really love drinking rain, so we're going to market rain to everybody because it's just absolutely the most popular product at the moment. Yeah, it's a bit. No, I take your point. Irritated me because none of the characters in the time travel movie seem to know they're in a time travel movie, and they sort of pay lip service to not wanting to cause a paradox, but it's kind of like you're giving cancer patients machine guns and sending them to the future. Like, what do you think is going to happen? And then at the end, it takes them far, far, far. Well, firstly, they had a time machine, and their solution with the time machine is like, let's not seek out the problem and solve it with a 30-year head start. Let's send loads of like insurance agents and like parking meter attendants into a war with no training.
And it only occurs to them to do that after it takes one Chris Pratt to come back and figure out that that's what they should do.
The thunderously obvious thing. It's like, because the whole business of him being thrown back in time with the toxin is treated as the point of no return, as a failure. It's the character's lowest point. And it's like, he's in a fucking time machine. Like, all he has to do is get to the past, go, oh, I can use it. And then when he realizes it's treated as this big revelation, and it's like, it's got a fucking time machine. How many times can I say that?
You can't as well. You can't sort of reference past times, because like thinking, talking about, if you meet your other self, you'll cause a paradox. That's a sort of Back to the Future thing. You spoke about them referencing Terminator in places, and it's like, you can't sort of knowingly play in that pool, but then by the same token not know, like, or act like we don't know what the tropes are, or why you would even invent the time machine during a war.
That's when, again, I found that I assumed it was a technologically advanced thing, and it's not really a war. It's an infestation. They're not a war with these things. They're mindless animals.
Yeah.
Also, don't get me started on the fact they find the female, and I quite like that. As a concept, the females are very underrepresented in the population, and all the males guard them, and that's their kind of, I don't know what part of nature that's based on. And they kind of go like, we finally got the female. We better take her back to our badly protected base in the middle of the ocean. Oh no, the male's it. And like they set themselves up to be invaded and killed. And it's like, well, yeah, you spent this whole scene talking about how they will do anything to protect the female, and they'll hunt her out any place on the planet. And you take it to your lab, you fucking
right where the time machine thing is as well, because doesn't that have to keep spinning in order, like, there's some sort of thing set up with that.
You're in a situation where you have air superiority, right? You could fucking put a field lab in a fucking aircraft and just fly around the world and they can't touch you and do your fucking research there and the bastards won't be able to get you. But instead they put it right in the last piece of humanity in the middle of the fucking ocean. It's dumb as a bag of rocks and not in a good way. Technically speaking, it's great. It's a little bit kind of, you know, like you said about Marvel or DC and stuff, it's got that kind of slightly green screeny kind of plasticness to it. But hey, look, it's a really high-end, expensive-looking movie. You know, you can't argue with it. And the editing choice, it's something editing's gone out the window in the last few years. The editing choices in it made sense. I think a lot of creative choices made sense.
Yeah, I think it tells the story okay. It just doesn't. It doesn't do anything with it. I mean, case in point, this the business obviously goes back and meets his daughter, or goes forward. Sorry, meets his daughter, and she gives him, because obviously he's sort of aware that people are sent, or it becomes revealed to him that the people who were chosen to be sent forward are dead in that time. And so he asks how that happened. She sort of tells him this story about how he left her and her mum and all this kind of thing, which doesn't add up to him because he's like, I would never do that. And she sort of tells us, or paints a picture of someone who he really isn't. And you think something's going to be done with that. Like, you think there's going to be some kind of...
They never.
Yeah, there's some sort of revelation about his character, or who he is really, and how it's going to then be a redemptive story about how he's going to... pre-armed with that knowledge, is going to go back in time and sort of improve his life, and you sort of get a sense of that, but it's like it doesn't really add up. None of it adds up, and none of it really comes to anything, you know.
It's more sad dad stuff. I read one thing, and I can't verify it because it's IMDb trivia, but I read it and I like it, and if it is false, it's still better than what's in the film. Apparently, at some point in the script development, the point was the reason, and I can't stress this enough, they've got a time machine, they send loads of untrained schlubs with guns into the future war, and they don't even give them uniforms and stuff. And so you've got all these kind of average Joes getting killed off in a future war, including Chloe from 24. And there was supposed to be a thing where the point was they were meant to be sacrifices because they were loaded up with the neurotoxin and they were being sent to be eaten by the aliens, so that would then spread through and kill the aliens. And that was the idea. You take people who are destined to die, you fill them with the poison, you feed them to the monster. And that's the kind of twist I was waiting for that never happened.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, otherwise it's just
that just sounds as well like that. Our focus group says that they don't like people getting eaten, so we're just going to take that right out. And it's like, right, so nothing compelling then, you know.
That's a load-bearing plot twist, you fuckers.
I suppose to sum up before we are coming to the end of this review, what would you? Well, firstly, would you recommend it? I think I know the answer to that. And are we going to give these things ratings, or are we not going to bother?
I don't see the value in number ratings. I think if you've listened to the last 20 minutes, I think teenagers and kids would like this, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think if I was 14, I would have loved it.
Yeah,
but I'm not. I'm a miserable old bastard instead.
Yeah, I mean, I look. I mean, given that there isn't exactly a glut of new films out there at the moment, it's probably. And if you've got Prime already, I would say, yeah, chuck it on, see what you think. But and it's visually arresting in places, but I wouldn't put it on thinking you're going to get the next generation of time travel sci-fi action movie, because you're really not. And like you say, jacked J.K. Simmons. Because wasn't there that thing? This must have been filmed ages ago, because there was that picture of him with a beard and getting all jacked up, and people thought that was for Commissioner Gordon.
Well, apparently he got so the director of this saw that picture on Instagram and said, "I want to cast you, but can you do that again?" And he said yes. Right. So apparently he got re-jacked. Oh, Jesus. And apparently Schwarzenegger's daughter was like, "You're jacked," and he was like, "I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter said that, so I'm all right with it." Which is kind of like, hey, fair play, J.K. Simmons, you big jacked bearded nutcase.
Okay, fair enough.
Battle Santa is what he looks like, which I like a lot.
Injecting testosterone into his eyeballs.
HGH, man.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That was our brief review of The Tomorrow's War. What happened tomorrow? Not to be confused with Tomorrow Never Dies, which is a completely different film. Thank you.
Or The Day After Tomorrow, which is also a completely
different film. Or did anything with the Tomorrow World, or whatever that George Clooney thing is. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening and or watching this. We are going to be putting these out on the reg as best we can, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you've seen the Tomorrow War, please give us your brief synopsis, your review down below in the comments. And if you're listening to us on iTunes or was it Apple Podcasts now or whatever platform you're listening to podcasts on, please leave us a rating and review. It really helps us and helps you too, I think. Karma or whatever. Till next time, I've been Duncan Casey. You've been
Richard Jackson.
And we'll catch you on the next one. Tatty bye.
Bye.